This podcast of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs is sponsored by AAA Heating and Air.
The premier HVAC company in the Midlands is growing. Are you a top HVAC technician?
AAA Heating and Air is looking for dedicated applicants to fill their fast-growing service department with top-notch HVAC technicians.
If you're the best, then they want you. If you're ready to stop working and start a career, you can earn up to $100,000 plus a year at AAA Heating and Air.
Quality candidates will have at least 2 years experience and a good driving record. Benefits include top industry salaries, commission on service and unit sales, set call limits, company-provided take-home vehicle and gas card, company-provided cell phone and tablet, health, dental, and vision benefits, 401k retirement plan with company match, and scaled PTO based on length of service.
Contact Roy and Dana Finley at 803-677-1500 or check out their job postings on Facebook or ZipRecruiter.
AAA Air when you need us. AAA Heating and Air.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, founded by firemen, with Chris Clark.
The 2007 South Carolina class was, at that time, 6th in the country and 4th in the SEC, which is amazing.
Wes Mitchell.
You know, I think if you're South Carolina, you're aiming to at least be at 50%. Then in theory, you're adding talent, you're getting better, you're putting yourself in a position to compete.
And Tyler Head.
It's been a great week for South Carolina. On the recruiting front, still certainly plenty to talk about.
On the home of the Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game.
And welcome into the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs here on 107.5 The Game. Tyler, Wes, and Chris with you on this Tuesday morning. Thank you once again to Debo Williams for hanging out with us for the Garnet Trust Hour. Great conversation between him and Chris. Apparently, Debo is a podcaster himself. Did not know this.
Yes, he is. You know, guys, I don't like putting labels on people. But sometimes, you know, you put a label on somebody and it's in your mind, it's a positive. But listening to Debo talk, I don't know. I think we misrepresented him as football guy because Debo, is obviously a football guy, but I think he's kind of got his mind on much more than just football. Like, he comes across because of his dedication, because of the fact that he does put just so much into being the best player that he can. You know, you maybe misrepresent that that's all he cares about, or that's 90% of his life. I mean, I wish I had thought of broadcast journalism the way he did, and like, hey, I need to do this to do everything I can to put myself in a place to be a better speaker, to be a better public speaker, you know, to kind of improve myself in that way. So I thought it was a great interview. I've always liked Debo, but now I'm like huge Debo fan, man. That was really cool and just a very, very impressive dude.
Yeah, somebody that's certainly going places, and obviously we hope he has a great football career both here at South Carolina and going forward at the next level. But whatever he ends up doing in life, he's one of those guys you just feel like he's going to be successful at it.
Yeah, and his mentality, man, that's what really stood out. Just sitting there talking to him, he has a belief, I think, in himself and a confidence. Definitely not a cockiness, I don't think, but just a belief in himself. And I mean, look where he came from. You know, a guy that couldn't get Temple to offer him out of high school. That couldn't get Temple to offer him. Couldn't get Rutgers. These are not powerhouses. They're up in the Northeast. They recruit the state of Delaware. They recruit their own kind of geographic region. Couldn't get an offer, and went to a smaller school, got in the portal, bet on himself, and now you look at the progression. You know, you got a guy who was a freshman at the University of Delaware, shout out Blue Hens, and then transfers to the SEC, and now going into this season, he's in a great spot to be a starter, which I don't know, to be honest. I don't know if I even foresaw that. Like, I knew he was going to be an important player this year, but he I think, has kind of taken that next step along with Stone Blanton.
Well, you can definitely tell by the way that he plays. He plays with that chip on his shoulder mentality, like he's out there with something to prove. And based on what you guys were writing about from the most recent scrimmage this past weekend, it does seem like he and Blanton are going to be the two guys at that linebacker spot starting.
Seems to be trending that way. seems to be trending that way, right? I mean, I think you look at his natural ability, his willingness to hit. I mean, that's never been in question. He's not a guy that's ever shied away from contact. And it's just been a matter of him kind of, I would say, developing within the defense and developing as a linebacker and all the different reads and where am I supposed to be on a certain situation. I think he's one of those guys in high school. It was just, he was so physical and so willing to just go hit somebody that it was kind of like you just turn him loose and let him go play free. And you get to college and these coaches expect you to find that balance of doing that while also playing within the structure of what you're expected to do within a defense. And I've said it before, I frankly kind of, as I was putting together a depth chart in my head and, you know, even online probably projecting it out way too early, I kind of had Debo penciled in as, oh, this guy will be a key rotational player, much like he was last year. And, you know, the beauty of college sports, the beauty of football is some guys kind of stay the same and stay in that role. Ideally, you want, as guys get older, as they get more experience, for them to step into a greater role. And it certainly feels like Debo has done everything in his power to put himself in a position to do so. And it seems like it's actually playing out like that way as well. And so now, you know, you throw in the fact that you get Mo Kaba back, you add Pup Howard to the bunch, you have Bam Martin-Scott, you really have a linebacker group there that I think we've talked about the extra athleticism compared to maybe last year, but I think you really like the developing depth that they have there too.
And is this maybe, do we think this is maybe an underrated storyline with this team, an under-discussed storyline? Defensively, there have been a lot of talking points, all very, very fair. Run defense is one. Edge depth, and the guys you lost a couple guys who were starters last year at edge. You're trying to develop depth. Very fair to discuss. 2 NFL corners, one of who was a very, very good special teams player for you as well. All those things have been discussed. But I feel like in the midst of that, the kind of changeover, the changing of the guard at the linebacker position has maybe gotten lost a little bit. Like, people have talked about Pup Howard, and they've talked about Stone, talked about Debo. But could this be an area where South Carolina is significantly better from 2022 to 2023? I think it is possible. And I think, Wes, you nailed it. The athleticism, number one, the depth. More of the question mark is your experience level. You don't have 2 6-year seniors in there. You've got Stone Blanton, who played as a freshman last year and played a good bit. You've got Debo, who's been with this program a while. This will be his biggest role yet, but he's played some important snaps. So your experience factor, I think, is your bigger question mark. But I don't think there's any doubt that they're talented. I don't think there's any doubt that they're more deep at the linebacker position. And if they can make a pretty significant leap, I don't think you can discount that.
I look at this thing as sort of stages as you're trying to determine what expectations are for individuals and for a position group. So you go kind of rewind time a little bit, go back to the summer. That stage of the process, we were hearing, look, staff is very excited about these guys. They feel like they've all made progress. Stone Blanton was identified to us by Shane Beamer way back, I don't know, it was like January, February. Hey, this guy's taken a huge step in the winter workout program, and then that continued in the spring. He's kind of reshaped his body a little bit, has used that 1 year of sort of experience as a rotational guy and moved it forward. Then you start hearing, again, into the summer, Debo, progress, Pup Howard, a guy who can certainly help him play. And so I think you feel like at that time internally, they feel like they're in a pretty good spot. But then you're wanting to see, all right, does that carry over into preseason ball? Then you look at those two guys. I feel like it kind of speaks to their progress that Mo Kaba hasn't just jumped up there and seemingly taken one of their spots. We know Mo is a guy who can play either spot. You kind of got the impression it would maybe be Stone and Mo or Mo and Debo. So like whichever spot he kind of took, the other guy would be the starter at the other one. To this point, it appears Stone and Debo have both held off Kaba, and then, of course, a freshman, Pup Howard. So to me, the next step to that, Chris, is, all right, how does that now play out against real opponents? That's what we're going to find out, in less than 14 days, is that, all right, does this also mean improved run defense? Because they always are very quick to point out, hey, run defense is not one position group. It's not just the D-line. It's not just the linebackers. All 11. So that makes it very hard to dissect where the problem is with run defense.
Well, and the good thing for us from an analysis standpoint and for fans is you're going to get a really good look at that right off the bat. Like Furman, if you flip-flop these games and Furman was up first, South Carolina did a nice job defensively. Debo and Stone looked really good. You said that's good. That's a good starting point. But they're going to get tested right off the bat because of the way this offense for North Carolina is going to be administered. North Carolina, as we've discussed, deep at running back. They've got some guys who are really, really good there. And then Drake May's a really good quarterback, so he's going to be able to test the linebackers sideline to sideline. They're, of course, going to try to create some mismatches in the passing game with their backs or tight ends or slot guys. And so this will be a great test right off the bat. If South Carolina can pass it, and all 11, like Wes said, but particularly if you're just diving into the linebackers, putting them under a microscope, if they pass this test and play well, that bodes really well, I think, for the rest of the year.
I'm really glad you mentioned the Furman game. What's something we haven't done in a while here on 107.5 The Game? Do you guys know?
Made fun of Furman?
No.
They're not in the same categories, Vandy. We haven't given away anything.
We have not given away a pair of tickets to anything in quite a while. Our guy Josh, who's currently dancing in the studio next to y'all,
thank goodness the video is not going.
We have a pair of tickets to the home opener versus Furman that I'm going to give away caller number 5 right now, 803-404-6100, while Wes and Chris tell you about Firehouse Subs.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. 107.5 The Game.
All right, guys, alert. We will be at Firehouse Subs tomorrow all morning. Come on out. We're going to be in Chris Clark's stomping grounds in Irmo. He is excited. He's jumping up and down. He's dancing now, too. 9 a.m. to noon. Come out and see us. Firehouse Subs is the presenting sponsor of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour every single day. For that, we are very, very thankful. Go to FirehouseSubs.com. Download the Firehouse Subs app. Hit the Rapid Rescue right now is by far the easiest, most efficient way to order your lunch from Firehouse Subs. Right now, they still got that special going. You got the pepperoni pizza meatball sub with garlic bread, double the cheese, crispy pepperoni. It is honestly, I would say, the best special they have ever done. Go check it out if you have not already. If you have checked it out, I'm sure you loved it. Go check it out again. FirehouseSubs.com and the Firehouse Subs app.
Going to be hearing from some players and Coach Beamer later on today. What are we looking forward to hearing from them? Discuss that next. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. 107.5 The Game.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Presented by Firehouse Subs. Founded by firemen with Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, and Tyler Head. On your home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game.
And welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs on 107.5 The Game. Following us, Jay and Terry are going to be broadcasting the halftime show live from the Tile Shop on Harbison. It's going to be right next to Total Wine and More from noon until 3. Come out and see their 75 full displays. Tile Shop also does Total Designs as well. Of course, we're going to be out at Firehouse Subs tomorrow out in Irmo. And the whole station going to be out at the Summer Golf Classic this Friday at Charwood Golf Club in West Columbia. All the spots for that have been filled, but show up between 8 and 9 o'clock. You can participate in Putts with Preston. Only $5. And if you out-putt Preston, you win tickets to the Jacksonville State game.
Phenomenal. Love it.
All you got to do
I might have to get out there early.
All you got to do is best Preston.
What time is this again?
Between 8 and 9 on Friday morning.
How good is Preston at putting?
He says he's been working on it in the studio in there.
Okay.
So,
well, that's
okay.
It's a little different.
We'll see.
Little different. Yeah, we're taking the show on the road, man.
We are.
We got a lot of stuff going on here on the station.
It's a busy week.
What, Tyler, are you excited about some subs tomorrow?
Oh, absolutely. I'm already thinking about it.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the garlic bread now being put on any sub and the possibilities there.
Mm-hmm.
That's
endless.
That's special.
They are endless.
Endless possibilities. New York steamer. We got to try that. Some other stuff going on tomorrow, too. Wes, can you remind me? Can't remember.
Believe there's a possibly big commitment that might be taking place.
Us tomorrow.
That is tomorrow.
Daniel Hill?
Danny.
D1 Danny?
D1 Danny.
Does he prefer to be called Danny?
I don't know, but I
don't
call
know.
him that. I call him Danny. And playing high school quarterback this year.
Call him D Hill.
D Hill. He's a good one, man. This would be a big pickup for South Carolina.
Okay, your personal Chris Clark, Gamecock Central, on 3, recruiting prediction machine, percentages.
Ooh, well, let me go and see what my actual percentage was when I logged a pick.
But see,
You wanted me to give my current one?
Yeah, but we're pretty conservative on those. I feel like
we are. So I logged one.
I'm gonna guess Chris logged it at 60. That's probably
You nailed it.
It's probably what he put.
Ding,
That's just what he put.
Ding sound effect.
All right, we need a ding sound effect, and I want access to it.
I think it's
Can
on,
we-
it's on that
Can we make
board.
that happen?
I think it's on that board.
I have one. Give me a
Sorry,
second.
Tyler. I'm gonna start hitting buttons over here, man.
You're gonna, Wes is just gonna.
There you
he's
go.
gonna
Oh God!
Introducing Rich Valdez, America at Night, the podcast.
Welcome to the Conversation Familia.
A perfect blend of news and entertainment, interviews and insights.
It's really just an expose on how messed up things are.
America's nighttime town hall whenever you want.
It's a huge problem that deserves a lot more attention.
Rich Valdez, America at Night. Follow the podcast wherever you listen.
I do think I
You
have
see it?
access.
do it. Nope.
I don't know if it works.
No, it doesn't
Oh
work.
man,
We'll have to
I've
get
been
that
taken
fixed.
over. I thought this was touchscreen.
Wes is gonna delete the show.
See, we need like a hand signal when you want me to do it.
Okay, let's try.
It'll be this. There we go.
There we go.
There we go. All right, we're learning on the job here,
60%.
on the fly.
Yeah, this is
60%.
It's our first day.
All right. No, forget that. What would be so on 3 prediction machine right now?
Okay.
Has D1 Danny 75.7. I don't know how I got the 0.7% to South Carolina. 22.7 to Alabama. You may be saying, Wes, I'm not great at math, but that doesn't add up. You got those little like tiny minuscule percentages in here. Auburn, Tennessee, some other schools, whatever. Where is your current percentage that he lands with the Gamecocks tomorrow?
All right, I'm gonna try not to be conservative. I feel like
This is where Chris says, but it's close.
no. Well, here's where my head's at on it. So the 75% as of right now, where we sit, and let me say as of yesterday, I have not dove in today to. It is not Daniel Hill intelligence gathering hour of the day yet. It will be probably as soon as we get out of here. Maybe even during the show, Wes. 75% is probably conservative. That's probably a little lowish from yesterday. I'd probably go higher. But the reason that I think you can look at it one of two ways. You can keep the percentage because you say, well, Alabama might make another late run. Or you can just say, well, right now it's this, and then it's subject to change, right? Like, I think you can look at it either way. But I think it's at least 75%. Where's your head at?
Well, I gathered a little bit of D1 Danny info
Okay, here we go.
about
You're ahead of me today.
10 minutes ago, actually. And I got a very quick text back. Good sign. I think right now it's at 85.
85. That's
And-
kind of where I went in my mind.
And that is baking in the what are the chances that Alabama does just make some last minute quick run. That's baking that in. If I was giving you like a what is it right this second or last we checked, last we heard, it would have been even higher. Like it would have been like 95%, I think. So I say that the only reason we're probably a little bit more conservative these days is fresh off. I mean, I would have told you Jalewis Solomon was 99% about 30 minutes before he was about to announce.
And he was.
And then, yeah, and then
he
it
wasn't.
changed.
Then he
so,
wasn't. Yeah.
you know, that's kind of where you got to be a little bit conservative, but still, South Carolina's done so much here. And they have withstood the Alabama push for so long. You just got to get to the finish line. That finish line is now just over 24 hours away. And I think South Carolina is where Danny Hill wants to be.
Yep.
I think that's where he wants to be.
Yep.
And I think it's where he fits best. I think they have done everything possible, everything imaginable to show him that South Carolina is where he needs to be and should be. I think he's bought in. I think he's really hit it off with the other players who will be his teammates in the future. And, I think they just got to get to the finish line, and I think they will.
Let me ask this. Is there any level of concern that South Carolina already has a running back in their 2024 class and Alabama doesn't at this point in time?
No, I mean, they were always going to take two. I think Hill always knew that. And, I mean, let's be honest, y'all. Bama's depth chart, whether they have a guy for this class or not, you're always going to face competition at Alabama. And, I don't really think that will be a deciding factor against South Carolina, with Hill.
Well, let's look at the two backs. I had to remind myself, and I very quickly am like, oh, yeah, those two. The 2023 class for Bama, they signed Richard Young, 4-star, who was the number 4 running back in the country, a top 65 kid out of Florida. They signed him.
Wasn't he in the running for the top back in the class at
one time?
At some point?
The other one is Justice Haynes, who, Tyler, you would know, Veron Haynes' son.
He was almost a legacy.
Yes, he was, but he was not, and he was at Bama. Played at Buford, number 33 prospect in the country, number 2 running back in the country.
Wasn't he in the running for...
He also was in the running. And
number 1 running back.
He finished at number 2, so he was definitely even more in the running than Richard Young. So they signed those two guys. I think they have a 2025 back committed. Bama's still got some other guys. There's a kid from Kevin Riley, who's literally from Tuscaloosa, who's committed to Miami right now. And one of the reasons for that is, my understanding, Bama didn't make their push yet. That's a guy they can always go back. If they decide they want a kid from Tuscaloosa, they will likely get the kid from Tuscaloosa. And so I think it's a good thought, Tyler, that, hey, could Bama use that? Maybe. But their depth chart is a little bit more filled out. You look at South Carolina, DeCarrion Joyner, final season. Mario Anderson, senior. Juju McDowell, upperclassman, much different type of back than Daniel Hill. So really, you're coming in, he's going to have an outstanding chance, Daniel Hill would, to play immediately. Heck, he would have an outstanding chance to start if he's the best guy when he steps on campus.
I know we got to hit a break, but on the other side, I want to talk about what it would mean to land D. Hill and what type of player he is, the type of impact he can make. Like Chris said, I think he's an early impact guy, potentially in multiple ways. I think he's a special teams talent as well. Like Chris said, he's playing quarterback in high school. So I think there's something else to explore there about what it would mean to South Carolina.
We'll hit that coming up. You're listening to the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, 107.5 The Game.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, 107.5 The Game.
Let us tell you real quick about a business that has been to my home, and Wes, they've been to your home now too. Integrated Media, Michael, Nathan, their team, they do an outstanding job. They can do so many different things for you, whether it's something as simple as mounting a television, if you just don't want to mess with it. If you started it and put a bunch of holes in your wall, they can come clean it up. They can make it look good, and they can make sure that your TV is going to stay there and look great. They can run internet throughout your home. Make sure you've got a great signal for all your streaming. Football season's right around the corner. You want to make sure that your home theater, your audio-visual setup is in tip-top shape. They can do it inside. They can do it on your screen porch. They can even do it outside for you. If you want some examples of some work that they have done in the past from an audio-visual standpoint, Integrated Media Columbia on Instagram or Facebook, get some examples of past work, get a little inspiration, and then go visit their website at integratedmediainc.com. Home theater, audio, video, TV installation, security, and cameras are complete smart home systems, all of it at the touch of a button, right at your fingertips with our friends at Integrated Media. 803-948-8327 or integratedmediainc.com.
What would adding Daniel Hill do for the Gamecocks? We'll hit that next. You're listening to the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs on 107.5 The Game.
It's the Gamecock Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Presented by Firehouse Subs. Founded by firemen with Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, and Tyler Head on your home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game.
And welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs on 107.5 The Game. Tyler, West, and Chris along with you, continuing the conversation about Daniel Hill, the 2024 running back prospect, set to make his commitment tomorrow afternoon out there in Mississippi ahead of the start of his high school football senior season, which starts on Thursday. South Carolina in a very good position to land him, as you guys were talking about. Obviously, a different type of running back. Looking at some of his highlights, just a big physical presence, 6'2", 220 pounds, and some of these highlights I've watched him as a freshman, and putting guys on their butts that seem to be older than him, more experienced than him, and somebody you definitely would love to have in a Gamecock uniform in 2024.
He's a big kid, y'all, and he can move incredibly well for his size. Great athlete, great ball skills as well. The versatility is kind of off the charts. He's going to play quarterback in high school this year. He's played linebacker. He actually goes to a lot of these 7-on-7 events, and I've seen film of him out there spread out, making plays as a wide receiver. So he can really do a lot of different things for you, and I think that's part of the reason for so much interest in him as a recruit is he is a running back, but he's not just a running back. And I think he wants to be a running back, but he's a guy you can move around. You can bring him out of the backfield. You can motion him into more of like a slot or even an outside receiver type role. He's big enough to do some blocking things for you on the edge if you put two backs in the backfield. Or if you have a running quarterback in the future, he's a great guy who can kind of be your running back, but then can lead up in there, with QB power and stuff like that. So I think for Danny Hill also, we look at this Alabama factor in terms of, it's always tough to beat Alabama. How about looking at the Alabama factor in terms of what it says about him as a prospect and as a player and as a person, that Alabama has wanted him for quite some time, priority target for them. We've seen Carolina, quote, beat Alabama at times. We've seen them beat them straight up for in-state guys, but to go out of state, beat them straight up on a player they truly want, not a kind of second or third tier player for them or target for them, I think that speaks volumes about who Hill is as a prospect.
And so, general point, when you look at the upper echelon guys that South Carolina has on the roster, it very much appears, by the way, that they have some good evaluations in this class that are not the top tier, like a Dylan Stewart, who's just an automatic, that guy is a take. He's really good. You got a punter in the class of Mason Love, right? You got David Busey, but Matt Fuller rushed for 28 yards a carry the other night. On threes, Charles Power, really high on him, higher than most in the industry. Looks like a good take, right? So Marion Lang has, a lot of athletic traits. You like Fred Johnson, looks like a really good, get. But you look at some of the other guys. Dylan Stewart, you beat Ohio State on him. Josiah Thompson, everybody wanted. Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, you name it. Cam Pringle, same thing. Everybody wanted him. Wendell Gregory, you beat probably Tennessee, Florida, some others. Mazio Bennett, you beat Tennessee. Braden Lee, a lot of schools, Maryland, Ohio State offered him. So if you get Danny Hill, you beat Bama on him. And so you're really starting to stamp your mark on, hey, South Carolina's going out and starting to get some prospects that a lot of schools aren't just dispensing token offers to. They really wanted these guys. And he is on field, Wes, to your point, just a big kid who can do a lot of different things. And he can really bend for his size. He can move. First two plays on his highlight clip, one of them he's just blocking somebody down the field. Next one he's catching a ball over his shoulder in double coverage. So he's a really versatile guy who has athletic traits. When coupled with his size, South Carolina really loves his potential as a back.
We know Coach Hardesty likes to assign professional counterparts to his running backs. If you looked at this kid, who's his comparison, whether at the NFL level or somebody that we've seen in college before?
Whew.
Or is he on an island all by himself?
I don't want to say he's on an island by himself. I don't know if I have the goods here.
Yeah, that's...
Y'all know I'm not an NFL guy. Like, I watch the Panthers casually. Hardesty now, he watches those NFL backs, man. Like, he's in it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you one that's not a great... Some people listening may say that's a terrible comparison. This guy's bigger, but kind of a ish Brandon Jacobs. Like, Brandon Jacobs coming out, he was the number one JUCO prospect in the country from Louisiana. His son, by the way, is a really good offensive line prospect, Braden Jacobs. And Brandon was like 6'4.25" so he's probably a couple inches taller than Daniel. And he was like 240-something pounds. So now Danny this summer, Wes, he was 230-something probably. I don't know what he is this season, but he was up there. And it kind of similar. If you go watch some Danny Hill highlights with him in space, if you go look at some Brandon Jacobs, you might say, okay, there's some percentage point of a comparison, but they're also pretty different too. They're just, you look at them like, that's two big guys running the football.
I think the ball skills and the ability to go be a receiver, almost like a tight end H-back type guy too.
Yeah.
It's kind of what separates him. Yeah, it kind of sets him apart from some of these other guys, I think. So I'm sure there's somebody out there. I don't know if you're a recruitnik or if you are a big NFL guy, or really you probably got to be both of those for this question. Hit us up, Firehouse Subs text line 404-6100. I'd love to hear if we got any D Hill comparisons out there.
He's listed on his huddle, Wes, 41-inch vertical.
I believe it, man. This is just one of those guys that
explosive,
makes everything look easy.
It's kind of a super freak of an athlete.
Yeah,
yes,
pretty much.
Possibly future Bruce Feldman's freak list.
I could see it. Now, Wes, you were talking about what it means.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say South Carolina gets Daniel Hill tomorrow and pairs him with Matthew Fuller. Is that about as well as you could expect to do for 2024, given the needs and given your targets out there?
Yeah, and I mean, add that in with the fact you got DJ Braswell in this past class, a guy that they're obviously very high on. Wasn't talked about as much as most 4-star recruits are, I feel like, among the fan base. So, I mean, you're if you look at Fuller, he's 3-star right now as far as the industry average goes, but he's a 4-star on 3. If he has the big year that he may be trending towards after 1 week, then maybe he bumps up. You could potentially be looking at 3 straight 4-stars at that position. And it's a spot people have kind of criticized, you would say, as far as the recruiting there. So I think that would be a great trend for South Carolina, something they could point towards at that position, and would really put them in a spot to have restocked that position moving forward.
Mentioned a moment ago Nick Harbor making that freaks list for Bruce Feldman last week. That would have been, speaking of list, a couple of in-state guys making a significant list to keep an eye out on over these next couple seasons. We'll hit that coming up. You're listening to the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs on 107.5 The Game.
Over hour 107.5 The Game.
All right, you've heard about her before on the show. Let me tell you about her again. Amy Mason Cup, State Farm. My friend, my insurance agent. Amy is a South Carolina native and a local agent, and she and her team can give you a personalized quote on your insurance to help meet all of your insurance needs and help you save. Brand name insurance, great coverage at a great price. If you want to look at switching and saving like I did, check out Amy Mason Cup. AmyMasonCup.com or 803-772-5554. If you want to pay her a visit, her office is right off the St. Andrews Road exit, off of I-26, 612 St. Andrews Road, Suite 4. That's called Ashland Park Plaza. That's where you can find Amy Mason Cup State Farm. Whether you want to look at life insurance, if you're a parent like me, you want to be able to protect your kids, protect your family in case something happens, or if you just want to look at saving on your auto insurance, your home insurance, Amy Mason Cup can help you look at all of your different needs, bundle those products up, help you save by switching to State Farm. Again, great coverage at a great price. AmyMasonCup.com, 803-772-5554. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
What in-state prospects made the On3 2026 watch list? We'll talk about that next. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs, 107.5 The Game.
Takeover Hour. Presented by Firehouse Subs. Founded by firemen with Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, and Tyler Head on your home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game.
And welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler, Wes, and Chris with you on 107.5 The Game. Getting coming up next, Jay and Taylor with the Halftime Show, broadcasting live from the Tile Shop out on Harbison, right next to Total Wine Morgan. Be out there from noon until 3, so certainly go by and say hi to those guys and check out the 75 full displays that the Tile Shop has to offer. As I mentioned for the break, yesterday, On3 released their 2026 watch list, which features 100 prospects and 2 guys from within the state that are also priority targets for South Carolina made the list.
Yeah, I know we don't always talk about 2026 guys or, in this case, sophomores, but I thought it was worth mentioning here, guys, because these are probably 2 of your next potential national guys in state that fans are going to want to know moving forward. And so you've got Jazavian Currents, South Point kid. He's been on the radar, I would say, since he was a freshman, certainly since last year. Plays some quarterback, plays some defensive back, and is a guy that South Carolina offered very early. He's got a number of other top offers already. Gamecocks, Florida, Georgia, Florida State, UNC, NC State. By far, unless there's just some guy floating under the radar we haven't really heard of yet that hasn't put out his offers, he's got the biggest offer list for 2026 guys by far. I was looking, Chris, he's listed 6'2", 165. That is incredibly outdated. Saw him at camp this summer. I mean, that's probably 25 pounds ago, honestly.
That much, huh?
Did you see him?
Yeah, I saw him.
He's
filled out.
He is definitely filled out, man. So probably a safety, maybe grows into a linebacker, man. We'll see, but a top guy for sure. He's a 4-star, probably has the early edge for top prospect in the state for that class. You look at the industry ranking, he is number 31 already overall for 2026 because he is a 4-star on both On3 and 24/7 Sports. And then the other kid is Jalen McGill, who also has an offer from South Carolina, 5'10", 185, running back, 4-star guy from Broome. Early offers from South Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia Tech. So 2 national names there. A third guy that did not make the list, but I think is headed towards being a 4-star at some point as well, would be Timberland's Desmond Green, offensive lineman, has an early offer from South Carolina. Unless there's somebody that we just haven't caught wind of yet as far as putting it in the database, I think those are the 3 for that class.
Those are the 3 big ones right now. Yeah, and it looks like, it is early from a ranking standpoint. If Currents continues to develop and if he stayed on this same track, he could be kind of a Darion Kendrick range in terms of rankings, which is, that guy was a heck of a player at Clemson and ended up being an NFL guy. Obviously, it's a little early there, right? But in terms of the early ranking, the early offer list, he's another South Point guy like Kendrick. It may be similar trajectory. We got to see McGill, Wes, in camp this summer. There's no 2025 in-state running back offers out right now from South Carolina. There are a few guys like LaDainian Martin from Greer that they like, that they've had in camp. They're looking at Jamarcus Williams from Hannah Pamplico is another one. But Jalen McGill, we saw in camp this summer, got an offer after a big spring game performance when South Carolina went and scouted him, and definitely looked the part watching him run around there in camp this summer.
Yeah, Martin, I think, is the guy for 2025 that I would keep an eye on. Mm-hmm. I think they're being pretty selective about offering. If they offer him, they want to be able to accept the commitment. He's an in-state guy. But I do think they like him quite a bit. So that would be a guy to keep an eye on moving forward for that 2025 class. I feel like we don't really have the 2025. Like, the 2025 class has not really filled out yet as far as in-state top guys. Like you have a couple of guys we're aware of that are at the top, but we haven't found that depth yet for 2025, and we'll find out, moving forward if that happens.
That'll do it for today's edition of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Don't forget, tomorrow, going to be broadcasting from the Firehouse Subs out in Irmo from 9 until noon. So certainly come by and see us. Colin said his grandmother might actually come by, so we'll be treated with her as our guest, I suppose. Don't miss your chance to come by and see us again from 9 until noon tomorrow at the Firehouse Subs in Irmo. Coming up next, it is the halftime show with Jay and Terry broadcasting live from the Tile Shop on Harbison right here on 107.5 The Game.